So I'd like to end with just some personal observations that bear on this topic of consciousness, altruism, and spirituality. So 10 months ago, I had a routine screening colonoscopy, believing myself to be very healthy and awakening from anesthesia with the news that I likely had a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, which has been largely unresponsive to treatment. So ironically, the very first psilocybin therapeutic study we conducted was in treatment of people who were depressed or anxious after having received a life-threatening cancer diagnosis. And in brief, that double-blind, well-controlled study showed large decreases in anxiety and depression that were sustained for months, indeed, in a different study, not at our site, years after a single exposure to psilocybin. And indeed, the mystical experience score on session days predicted the extent of outcome. So over the course of running that study, I spent many hours with these participants before, during, and after sessions. And I often wondered, how would I deal with a similar situation? Well, now I know. So where did I find myself when I was given this diagnosis? Well, initially, frankly, in just sheer disbelief. This was like a dream. It couldn't really be true. It was a proverbial bad trip, if you will. But over a very few number of days, I very quickly began to explore the range of psychological states that understandably can emerge under such conditions. And so in the offing was depression, anxiety, fear, combat, resentment, out and out denial, none of which seemed to be wise and comfortable states to inhabit. And I guess I also need to comment that given my skeptical inclinations and my scientific training, adoption of supernatural beliefs such as life after death was not a viable option for me. So on reflection for myself, I came to recognize rather quickly that what I had learned about the nature of mind from both meditation and psychedelics was critical to how I might manage this. We don't need to identify with thoughts or emotions as they arise. Instead, we can turn with great interest to investigate the present moment, to cultivate this power of gratitude for the astonishing mystery in which we all find ourselves. I mean, just consider it for a moment that we're these highly evolved sentient creatures. We can see and taste and touch and feel. We've developed language, mathematics, scientific methods for discovering something about the nature of reality. But most astonishingly to me is that we have this capacity to be aware that we're aware. It's actually the only thing that we really know to be true. We can't really validate it in anyone else. And yet we don't understand the nature of consciousness. We certainly don't understand how this entire project started, nor where it's going. So for me, the psychological off-ramp from potential emotional misery has been this cultivation, this intentional cultivation of gratitude for the preciousness of the gift of life itself, of being conscious, to being awake to the mystery of the present moment. As unlikely as it may seem, my wife and I have experienced my diagnosis as a gift, a blessing, really. And I've often reflected on what a tragedy it would have been had I been run over by a bus that morning that I was leaving for what I thought was a mundane medical screening appointment. But that's because the resultant practice of gratitude has led me to feel more awake, alive, and grateful than I've ever been before. in my entire life. Now, that said, I can't know if I'll maintain this sense of gratitude and equanimity in face of what appears to be inevitable disease progression. But I can lean into my heartfelt intention to celebrate with the preciousness of life, with joy. And so my invitation to each of you with me this morning here is to stay awake to the sense of the profound interconnectedness that we're all in this together. This is accompanied by the sense of benevolence and appreciation and connectedness. So please join me in my celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Roland, with these beautiful ending words. Thank you for being open about your own situation, your condition, and for this beautiful message that you instilled into all of us. I think it's a good time for us to break, to reflect on your words a little bit. I'm really sorry you couldn't be with us here in person today, but you are with us. So thank you very much.
And thank you. My pleasure to join you.